welcome back to the Automobilista Australia Super 2 Summer Series test round. And we've done Albert Park, Luke, but now we are at Oran Park. We just said it just prior to starting this second part of the broadcast that we expect this to be a little bit more chaotic than what Albert Park was.
Yep, completely different circuit. Oran Park, Melbourne, a sort of F1 circuit style. You know, medium speed corners, high speed, quite wide, and then we come to Oran Park. Lewis, I like to call it a bit of a go-kart track. Very small, quite narrow, a lot of corners, and produces some pretty good racing.
Yeah, it usually does. Maybe not so much in the V8 supercar era, but certainly in touring cars, it does produce some fantastic racing. So they've gone, as you said, from top-end Tier 1 FIA A-grade circuits to what is essentially a goat track. So they've gone from the top of the totem pole to the bottom. And as we've seen, a number of drivers in the wall in this practice session. But another thing that has surprised me though, Luke, has been the lap times. You don't do 106s around here after 5 or 6 laps without doing practice. Looks like these guys have been putting in a bit of time in the lead up to what is only just a test round.
Yes, I am guilty of that. Sometimes you're a bit bored and say, oh, yeah, why not just jump in set up a practice server with your mates and do a bit of laps. So obviously Tim's done a few miles before, doing some tests. Maybe Steve Burko, maybe NC Snipes, who knows? But we'll see in qualifying who has of course, the outright pace.
We certainly will. So it looks like has ticked over. Everything's gone quiet here in the server, and it may just be synchronizing. But yeah, number of drivers in the 106s. And NZ Snipes, has to be said, bit of a surprise packet. 106.9 for him, and got to remember, he is on a controller and P4, so looking pretty good. He'll be kicking himself that circuit isn't on the calendar with that kind of pace. But after a hot start, Burko and Brunswick in practice were able to get closer and closer as the session wore on. Same with Snipes and Stancliffe. Liccardo started pretty hotly, but just faded towards the end of the session. But all of those guys within a second of Tim Redmond, and then there was Steve Warwick as we tick over to qualifying. So just a reminder, drivers only have enough laps to complete one hot lap in this session. If you leave the pits, you are committed to starting a hot lap. If you press escape after that and try to go out again, you'll end up getting disqualified. And drivers have been warned of that. Drivers that have raced in Super 2 in the past will already know the rule. And who will be the first man out in qualifying? Looks like it will be Dane Liccardo, the first man out on track. And in real life, he'd be disqualified because he's crossed the line in qualifying. But hold on a second. Looks like maybe a restart here. I don't know. Yeah, looks like there is. Server is closed and we're restarting here. So I don't know what's going on here. Do apologise. So some possible issue that's being sorted out here. And for those that are into other sims, the laser scan version of Spa has now been made available for R Factor 2. Something we had a little bit of test night of the other night here at Automobilista Australia. Sounds a little bit weird, but we will be thinking about a name change and rebrand in future. But server's been reset. We are back in qualifying now. 21 drivers. We've had our runner-up in the previous Super 2 season join the server late, so it's good to see Lime Mitch into the server. It looks like a number of drivers are heading out onto the circuit already. Now, who is that at the end of the line? Just trying to find who that is. That's NZ Snipes, and we've already got a traffic jam here, Luke. Got to remember, you only get one shot at this. It's a very small circuit, yet everyone's leaving the pits at the same time. They all seem to just want to get blocked here.
Yeah, Oran Park, a very difficult circuit to hold qualifying with such a pretty high grid size here. So it's it's going to be key to find a break in the traffic and set a lap time. Of course, you only get one lap, and I've always hated this type of qualifying session because, like I said, it's quite hard to find a break in the traffic around this type of circuit. So it's been pretty difficult.
Yeah, so a number of drivers already leaving the pit lane. AMSOZ Snipes will be the first man out. And as it is such a short lap, you don't really have to go out straight away like, say, Albert Park, where the lap is close to 2 minutes long. An out lap will probably be 2 minutes or slightly above. And this circuit, an out lap will only be about a minute 10 to a minute 15. So, I'm surprised so many drivers have elected to leave the pit straight away, but these guys just want to get on with it out here.
Yeah, so it pays to sort of get out a bit later than usual, take advantage of a short circuit, and of course, take advantage of the track usage. You might find just a tiny bit of a gain if you set lap time for the last sort of minute of the session, as you benefit from a track usage sort of advantage.
Yeah, that is something, I don't think this track has it, but a lot of the really updated circuits and the Razor standard circuits that Patrick Guaranton has done, they have the real road and all that stuff on the track surface, which does alter the track grip. So sometimes it does pay to stay out. At the same time though, sometimes the session will start actually a little bit cooler conditions and the track temperature as the session goes on as well. So it is a bit of a balancing act whether you go out first or last, but personally I like to go out at the end of a session because everybody by then usually has done a lap, and it might pay for a number of drives out here. But Snipes travelling along quite nicely here on this lap here. I'm actually going to try and fire up live races here so I can actually keep up with the times. But he'll be the first man to set up. A little bit wide at the final corner, but it's otherwise been not too bad a lap. There's someone's hit the wall in the background there. That's one of the GRM cars. The 107.2 for Snipes there. Let me just try and find out who that was. There's Line Mitch 107.7. What was that? Was that Mishra? It was Mishra. Mishra's lost it coming out of the dog leg, and he's got airborne. He's got airborne and would have ended up in the stands. So in real life, if that had have happened, he would have wiped out some spectators. So thankfully it's just a sim. But may have to revisit that in a replay and a moment in history later on as Steve Warwick comes to the line. The 108.3. Licardo's actually been right behind AMSOZ Snipes there. He'll be kicking himself if he couldn't find just that extra 10th. But
yeah, I was looking at Hans Brunswick as he completely hits the tyre wall and goes to space. I was watching Hans Brunswick and he was in clean air for the first part of the lap, but got held up by, I think, Peter Throller there. So too good for him.
Well, Brunswick, he blew the engine. He blew the engine there, and here's another one. He's not happy with his lap at all, and decided, no, I'm going to start from the back in this one. So good luck, Hans. It's not a track that you really want to start at the back on.
No, it's quite, in these sort of cars it's quite hard to overtake. So yeah, it's going to be quite difficult for him to make a pretty major inroads into the race. Just watching Tim Redmond. He actually hasn't
started his lap.
He hasn't started a lap yet. Yeah, so he's done what I've said and waited to the last sort of seconds before the time ticks over here. So look out for him.
Got Stancliffe. He's within striking distance of Snipes here through the dogleg. Already seen a number of drivers struggle through there. Brunswick won, and as we saw famously, or what will be infamously, Mishra ending up in the stands up there to the line. Stancliffe to the top, 107.0, and Ben Pearson's just moved it there before the dogleg there, but Redmond on a lap, and 2.5 tenths down in the first split here, so he's got a bit of work to do here, Luke, as he comes over to the crossover.
Yep, 2 tenths around here is, more than you might think on a conventional sort of longer circuit. As it goes to the second of the circuit, quite a, not a lot of throttle involved section. Up to the second split, we'll see what it
about the dog leg. It's up 3/10
up.
of a second. Look at the split. It's awesome. And, well, quite handy in the middle sector. A little bit of a lock-up though, the final corner, but it actually opens up the exit for him here.
He's getting a good exit here.
And to the line, this will be the first 6, and he does it 4/10
6.
of a second. So there's even more time in it,
Wow.
considering he's 2.5 tenths down after the first split.
Wow, 4/10 quicker than Scott Stancliffe around Oran Park. That's quite a lap.
Certainly is. So he's continuing his hot form from Albert Park. 2 very different circuits, but it matters naught for Tim Redmond here. So we'll have a little bit of a break. Or, well, we won't have a little bit of a break. The drivers will have a little bit of a break as they're going to conduct a driver's briefing. It should be a brief one, as you know, most of the stuff has already been gone over, but just some track-specific ones for the drivers. But yeah, Tim Redmond, Luke, the man to beat once again here with a blistering lap time.
Yep, definitely the man to beat. Like I said before, 4/10 of a second around Oran Park. Just over a minute long in a VA supercar. That's a brilliant lap, a brilliant effort. And he's certainly going to be the one to beat in the race. In this nature of circuit being so hard to overtake.
6/10 of a second over Scott Stancliffe in the middle sector alone. 6/10, and around a lap that, as we say, 1 minute 6.6 long in terms of time. That is mightily impressive. Did have Cecil and Snipes. They were a little bit quicker in the middle sector than Stancliffe, but their final sectors in the end let them down, with Stancliffe having the fastest first sector through the session. Burko, he'll be disappointed with his effort. His first sector was quite good, but his middle sector quite poor compared to those in front of him. He was 34.2 compared to, say, Matt Cecil and Stancliffe, who were 33 9s and 8s compared to the 34.2 that Burko was able to manage. And even his final sector as well, Burko 15.5, which is quite bad actually. The cars around him were at least 3/10 faster. So not an ideal lap from him. He could have been much further up if he'd put it even just a little bit more together. But he'll have his work to do in this one, Luke.
Yep, like I said, it's hard to overtake around here. So you want to sort of do well in qualifying to sort of keep up with the top guys here. But the middle sector around here, it's basically where all the time is. Sector 1, I believe, is just after turn 2. And Sector 3 only covers, I think, the sort of last section of the lap. I think 3 or 4 quarters. So yeah, the middle sector, it's where most lap times gained around here.
It certainly is, and well, Redmond has just blitzed them in that section. The second race will be interesting to see, obviously, if he does go on to win race 1 here, that he will have to find his way through the field. And turn 1 and 2 here, you don't really have a long run to turns 1 and 2, Luke. And it's a tight enough corner as well, so if you do end up being on the outside, you're not going to make up too much time here on the starts, unless right at the start you get an absolute blinder.
Yeah, the run from T1 to T2, it's probably one of the hardest braking zones in Australia. I do recall Tasmania being a quite difficult one as well, coming to turn 1 there. But it is real difficult, especially in these sort of cars. I've driven the Oran Park in a VS supercar and numerous sims, and they all punish you if you get that braking zone wrong. So you can get away with it sometimes if you run quite a rearward biased braking. It saves you from locking the fronts, but if you use too much pressure with that rear bias, you're gonna go around.
Yeah, that is something that the drivers are going to have to keep an eye on. There's not too many heavy braking points, but you are constantly, dabbing a brake here and there, and then you do have the final corner, turn 1 and 2. Turn 3, you got to use the brake a bit. Again, you got a really short shoot to turn number 4, and constantly putting a little bit of heat into the brakes, And yeah, you don't want to have too much rearward bias, especially the number. You do need it though. You do need that rearward bias, but you can't have too much because if you do put that little bit too much pressure on, you lock a rear round here, and you're going to have a spin. If you have a spin, as I said, it's a very short circuit. It's going to cost you a lot more time than what it would at a longer track where you could make, potentially more time up, as opposed to here, if you lose 5 seconds, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those circuits where it might reward you a lot if you adjust your brake bias per corner. If you watch a lot of the real life supercar drivers on on a qualifying lap, or sometimes if they're pushing in the race, you see them, adjust the brake bias lever per quarter. It will reward you around this circuit. But so yeah, a lot of drivers, me included, just it takes a lot of effort, a lot of testing to work out what's the best sort of brake bias number to use for each corner. So yeah, a lot of the drivers don't tend to use that sort of technique.
Yeah, and around here, you're very, very busy at the best of times. So if you add, trying to adjust the bias per corner, it doesn't really leave you too much leeway when you're racing other cars in the mix as well. Like on a quali run, you might be able to get away with doing it for most of the corners, but you had 20 other guys out there, and well, you could find yourself either running to the back of someone or just being swamped because you're too busy worrying about your bias when you should be concentrating on perhaps, your lines or even defending.
Yeah, and another thing is, in real life, I think they use a sort of a quick sort of lever. It's like a sort of a predetermined sort of quick release sort of thing that they use, but on most people's sims, people just use buttons, or I use a radial switch on my steering wheel, so you can't really fine tune sort of where you want to adjust it. So yeah, like you said, it's on a circle like this, it's quite, you want to be focusing on other things rather than always fiddling around with a bloody button.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, looks like the driver's briefing may have been concluded. We do have a car that has gone out on circuit. That's Lion Mitch in the Go-Getter Nissan Altima, part of the Matt White Motorsport stable. In real life, they are a Super 2 team, and that was the livery they ran in 2017. So it goes over the bridge there, and speaking of brake bias, looks like his is a little bit forward here, Luke, because every corner except for this one here is got smoke trailing out the back.
Yep, just sort of passing the time when the getting the service sorted, doing some laps as well. I think he joined quite late into practice, so yeah, taking the opportunity to do a bit of practice laps as he.
He's going to practice into the pits, and he's just made it.
Yeah, it's sort of a thing you want to do in warm up, Lewis, just to get it. Especially if you haven't done a lot of testing around the circuit prior, you want to test you want to do a bit of a test of the pit entry in case you overestimate it coming to the race and completely lose it, and get a time penalty for speeding. So yeah, it's sort of a thing you would like to do in warm up.
And this pit lane as well, Luke, it is a very, very tricky pit lane with a wall immediately on either side, and you've got to make a little jink to the right-hand side, but you don't want to lose too much time, or if you're in a battle pack, you don't want to brake too early because it's easy to get rear-ended here.
Yeah, it's you sort of use a gentleman's role of just sticking to the right-hand side of the circuit, let the person in front of you know that you're going in the pits, even just flashing the lights, or telling them in chat if you're in the same Discord channel with them, just telling them, oh yeah, I'm pitting, just to avoid a silly incident that's we've seen over the years, over the races.
Yeah, we did see in the ATCC race here a big incident between Wayne Spencer and Pete Savage in that one with Wayne. He didn't telegraph that he was going into the pits because he's the left-hand side of the line. Pete was on the right-hand side exiting the final corner, and at the last moment had Wayne slam on the brakes and turn right in front of Pete. They were both into the fence on the left-hand side, with Pete doing a bit of levitating and obviously received a bit of damage in that one. And I think Wayne had to do a old Austin Powers and 50-point turn it to get into the pits.
Yeah, we also did. We managed to convince Klaus Ludwig of Germany to buy a sim and head over to TSAC to do a race with us. He qualified pretty well, but had a bit of a coming together with a fellow sim racer.
Yeah, so it's gone through actually on screen. Dane Liccardo going through the dogleg there. Looks like we're ticking over to the race session here. Yeah, going through the dogleg there, coming up to lap. I do believe it was Rody at the time, and he'd already picked up a couple track cuts to avoiding other drivers, and there may have been some expletives as Rody was just going a little bit slow, and he was just lumbering along and balked Mr. Ludwig, and he picked up a track cut and ended up obviously on the team radio. It's almost a meme. It is a meme from old Klaus with some certain F words being dropped, and then Rody also sort of blocking him a little bit on his way into the pit lane as well, and he went on a bit of a tirade, did old Klaus, as he was trundling through to serve his drive-through. So it's good to see him along. Hopefully he comes back again, but I don't think he'll want to see the back end of our man Rody in that one. But the driver's briefing has been conducted. We're in the race session. Brendan Ross has jumped in. He's retired from Super 2 racing altogether, and he quickly runs through the grid here for race number 1 at Oran Park.
Oh, come on, mate, I'm just newly retired. Defending race 1 and 2 winner, we have Tim Redman on pole. Let me actually get to the person. And then we've got Mr. Milwaukee himself, Scott Stancliffe, in second. Mute Cecil in the Rod Nash Super Cheap is third. We got Mr. Snipes in the Nissan Nismo. Dane Liccardo, a very proud man, sitting in fifth. Lime Mitch just getting into the server late. He starts 6. Peter Thrower in the other 888 car is 7th. Steve Burko, our Season 1 champion, starting 8th. Brap, a newcomer to the series, in 9th. Stephen Warwick in 10th. Daniel Cox 11th. Cheese is 12th. Taipan we've got in 13th. Lachlan Lockie in 14th. Justin Cecil, who hasn't made it to the grid, should start 15th.
Looks like he's had another issue then.
Cracker will start 16th. Hans Brunswick is a crowd favourite in 17th.
Go Hans.
Mike Coulston, not riding a camel this time, he's in a Nissan in 18th. Ujrit Mishra is 19th. Ben Pearson is 20th, and he is the last man on the grid.
Yeah, so it looks like, Justin Cecil's had another either internet or PC drama, because if you go to him right here, and he's locked there and invisible, so it looks like he's not going to take part in race 1 here from Oran Park. Forming up on the grid.
RIP.
And it is a difficult start here, as there's a bit of a decline here in the circuit.
Well, they've got the advantage of a handbrake, so they should be right.
Yeah, last season would have been much more difficult for them, but they got a bit of a hand this time. Number of drivers, I think, just out of position here, so just waiting.
Yeah, one of the QRM cars, I think. They're trying to find the grid spots.
Oh, yeah, there's the 33. That's Brad, I think. But here we go. Lights are on. Away we go, and no jump start.
Good start by Tim Redman.
He's done it again.
Beautiful.
Mute Cecil's had a good jump, as has Liccardo, and Mitch around the outside. He's had an absolute corker. And all
there's contact.
Liccardo and Stancliffe, I believe, and Snipes having a look up the inside. There's a big dive from one of the GRX cars.
He's been punting off the circuit.
Yeah, that's Brap there. Newcomer just coming in a bit too hot. And he's Miley Cyrus him into the gravel trap. But Tim Redmond leads. Line Mitch, Cecil, Ricardo, Stancliffe, Snipes, Peter, Thrower, Cox, Warwick, Cheese, Brunswick, Taifan, Mishra, Lock, Cracker, Burko, Pierce, Wilson, and Brap round out the field as they go through Sector 1.
Yeah, Brap just, he's going to the back of the field, he's really dressed that one, so yeah, respectful driving for Brap there.
Cheese is around.
Oh, not Cheese. The heels behind Steve Warwick here. What has he done here? He's had a look up the inside, and oh, he's made contact with the side there of Warwick. So a little bit impatient, and he's come off worse for wear there. But lives to fight another day. Cecil's car's still parked there in the middle there. But Redmond in the lead, and Cecil defensive with Ricardo and Stancliffe battling it out. And Stancliffe
Good move.
stealing candy from a baby there at turn number 2, looking to make it two passes in 2 corners. But Ricardo having a look up the inside here. All happening at the start of this one.
Yeah, Ricardo down the inside, he's got the move done, but Stancliffe trying to get the better exit, but
He got it!
He's
That's
held.
an accident there, but he's still on the inside.
Oh,
You gotta-
contact.
Oh,
He was all sorts of sideways.
Has to be a test for Ricardo here. Does get a little bit of red mist going, so he's just got to just cool himself off after a hectic couple of corners.
oh,
here.
Lumbeach is around!
He is. He's in the fence.
He's avoided a massive accident there. He's did a 360, but he's hit the wall, but not as hard as I would have thought there.
So let's have a look here. What has he done? He's lost the back end. Oh, he's done a really good job to not have any kind of severe contact there. Let's have a look here. Ricardo at the final corner had a good run through the dog leg up the inside and got by Stancliffe. It's a cutback live. Stancliffe having a look up the inside of Ricardo. This is great news for the mute himself, Matt Cecil. He's able to drive away as these guys do get out the ball.
Ricardo and Stancliffe were both touching each other through that first and second corner, so that step was going to set Stancliffe up for the place, but missed out.
Oh, not a lot of room left while Ricardo there, so we nearly turned into Stancliffe. So yeah, these two, it's a lot of door-hand contact here.
And now Snipes looking to have a look as well. A bit of a Ricardo train here. Got Daniel Cox at the back end of that one as well. Redmond driving away out front. So I do wonder though, I wonder if I worry if he's not being too defensive. And actually saying that, Brunswick's now got by it. Could see Brunswick join the back of that queue as well. May even see Warwick join that queue as well at some point if Ricardo and Stancliffe keep battling. And Stancliffe almost off the circuit at turn 1. They're very, very deep. And again, he's much more confident though into turn 2 here, guys.
I mean, if I was Daniel Cox or even Peter Thrower, I would pit here because if these two keep battling, it's going to hold everyone up. And they could get a massive gain if they decide to pit in the next couple of laps here.
And the undercut is a factor. It does with the tyre wear enabled. You can get if you get a couple of good laps on new sets of tyres, you can jump a couple of seconds above people. So it is an option for them.
So that would be interesting to see. Maybe even Ricardo himself, if he just pulls it in and gets some clear air for a lap or two, he may be able to get back ahead of Stancliffe without costing himself too much time in the long run. But one thing that if you do pit early though with that high usage rate, as Ricardo up the inside of the final corner again, is that you're going to be on second-hand tyres at the back end of the race, which wouldn't be ideal. Stancliffe into turn 1 and 2. And again, having a look up the inside, Ricardo leaves the door open. Stancliffe goes to the inside, and looks like he's got that move sorted.
Ricardo's always got to look for the inside line. Oh, Stancliffe wide.
He's bowled it, and he's going to go to the middle of the queue. And Hans Brunswick has disposed of Daniel Cox there at Just cut to a replay here. Looks like Coxie lost a bit of time at the back end of that. Maybe even let Hans go. But Hans now on a charge. And he wants to get to the front of this queue. And his next man is going to be Stancliffe, who will recover after that mistake.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Stancliffe come in the next couple laps just to break the trend of being in this crowd because it's really slowing up. He's got pace for third place easy.
Getting up to the halfway point as Throwout breaks himself in the final corner. There goes Stancliffe and there goes Brunswick. A little bit of contact on the exit there, but everyone lives to fight another day and all of them going around again, but are pretty much at the halfway point of this race. Yeah, if I'm one of these guys, I'd definitely consider pulling it into the pits here. Certainly if I'm Stancliffe in this situation where you've been battling with Liccardo, who it seems like he is faster than, but he couldn't break away from. So Liccardo now, all he can to try and hold off Snipes from P4. Ultra defensive on the exit right hand corner as they go under the bridge, and that's Stancliffe wide and open the door for Brunswick, and Brunswick says thank you very much.
Yep, too easy pickings towards Brunswick. Racing rather, it's the best feeling to go in a position without actually working for him. It's Stancliffe. Another sideways action there coming out of the corner.
And we've got Burko as well as Brap out of the race. I'm just trying to sort of find how that happened here. Shit, no, it's too far back, so never mind. And, here we are. That's Stancliffe into the pits. He's the first of the front runners in the pits, and he's hit the wall there.
I think Redmond's made a bit of a mistake. That gap was out to about 4.2 seconds, and it's now down to
turn
2.5.
Turn 2 here, he's gone off. There we go. Yeah, turn 2 here, let's see what he's done. It's come in too hard, he's on the grass, and, well, he's lived to fight another day, but he's going to make life a little bit more difficult for himself.
Yeah, like Mitch, trying to go get a P1 here.
No.
In the go get a Nissan.
And Redmond's pit crew look like they're ready here. He's coming into the pits. Yes, he is. Live Mitch also, his pit crew are ready. He's coming in. Matt Cecil staying out. Liccardo staying out. Mishra has got a drive through. And he's just left the pit, so he's come out, or come in a little bit too hot there. So Cecil into the race lead. And at that last lap time, 1:08.6, Liccardo had a track cut, but he's actually gained a lot of time in these last 2 laps here. At least compared to Cecil, that is.
Could be down to a tyre disparity, but I'm not too certain on what that might be.
Of these drivers out here. I wonder if there's been any double stacking out there, because Stancliffe has dropped a bit further behind.
Oh, absolute chaos in the pit lane. It's lock. He's sideways into the box. Nearly blocked NZ Snipes there.
Oh, look, Redmond's off! He's gone off at turn 3 and he's given the effective race lead to Lion Mitch, and Snipes has got a drive through. Disaster for Snipes, who's in a great position. And at this circuit, if you see a replay of Redmond locking up and going off the road there, it's in a great position. But a drive-through around here, guys. 40 seconds, long time. And we've got Cecil around at the final corner. He's looped it. Looks like he's just grabbed a little bit of the curb and spun around. Pearson was off as well at the same time. And
this race has gone off.
He can't quite get over the hill. It's too steep for him. He's got to go a little bit further left here because it's too steep.
He's going to be there forever.
He's not going to get up that way. The best way he has to reverse and then go parallel to the circuit and rejoin here. But no,
he's left.
He's DNF'd it. He could have rectified that, but disaster for Cecil after it was looking like it was going to be a decent run from him here. As Ricardo leaves the pits, and he's got Hans Brunswick now right behind him.
Brunswick has done a lot of work with Dane, a lot of coaching.
He's having a
So
look.
It's showing the nose, and he's got
He's got it
the
done.
move done. Got the move done on Dane Liccardo, the number 2 there. Good job.
And these guys are comfortably clear of Stancliffe, who's got Taipan right behind him. Steve Warwick's right in that pack as well, and Peter Thrower's lost a bit of time, as has Cox in the pit stop sequence.
Practice had a bit of a moment coming out of the airport there. Scott has been here, so a lot of mistakes here, Lewis.
Did tip a bit of carnage in this one. It's a lot different and a lot less forgiving as Warwick's gone around, and well, he's off in the boonies, and that's dropped him out of that pack. And now it's Stancliffe's actually lost a little bit more time here, and he's got Taipan all over the back end. So Taipan hasn't really been the quickest runner in Super 2, but in the races tonight he's been pretty consistent. And again, looking at a solid result here, provided he doesn't have any more pit stop dramas like he did at Albert Park. And what has happened to our former? What has happened to Redmond? He's down in 13th place.
Yeah, I think he's either made another mistake.
He's coming for another pit stop.
Maybe he's coming for another pit stop. I don't know what's going on with the 3-time race winner.
We have to find out here. Just going to go back and have a look. It's happened within the last lap. But Ryan Mitch now comfortably in front. Has he gone off at turn? No, he hasn't gone off at turn number. No, he looks like, yeah, he's come in again. He's come in and done another pit stop. Looking at the replay, I apologise for bringing that up, but yeah, he's made another pit stop. So maybe he's forgot to add fuel or change his tyres, and it's going to run out there. So disaster. That means Lion Mitch, after not really having any practice, coming in very, very late, is inherited the race lead. He's 9.5 seconds ahead of Brunswick, who's done magnificently, as has been said, to jump up 15 spots in this race, and there has been some battle packs he's had to sort through. So he's in second place, just edging away now from Liccardo, who after some early heavy, well, I could say some heavyweight boxing match between himself and Stancliffe, finds himself 10 seconds ahead of Stancliffe, who's, as we cut to him, going for a bit of a lawn mowing session. And Stancliffe at the moment, guys, just struggling a bit to drive away from Taipan here.
Yeah, probably coming in that couple laps early has affected him with Taipan on. Just slightly fresher tyres would make that slightest bit of difference. So yeah, he's a little bit under siege here.
So yeah, just struggling at the moment. We've got Snipes out of the race as well. So that's just recently happened. Daniel Cox now starting to come on to the back of this pack. He's hit a personal best of 7.7 for him. So he's travelling along nicely at the moment. And that last lap, Hans Brunswick is 6.6, so he's travelling on nicely. He's got the gap down to 8.6 seconds with a yellow flag out there in sector 2, and that is then Pearson off the road. So Lion Mitch 8.6 out in front with 3 a bit to go, and Brunswick slowly closing down. Liccardo sort of maintaining the gap between himself and Lion Mitch. And then, yeah, this angry battle pack behind Scott Stancliffe.
Yeah. Oh, don't reverse onto a live racetrack.
Oh, Stancliffe is off! He's in the fence, it's a big hit! So through the dog leg, and there's Pearson, he's doing the smart thing and just parking it, but if he's going to sit there for that long, continue to press escape. Stancliffe though, right on board. I reckon he has a significant amount of damage, although it doesn't really look like it. You don't want to hit the tyre walls around here, which is what he did, but the pressure from Taipan paying off, and he's doing really well here. He's been my driver of the night so far, outside of Tim Redmond. So that said, still under attack from Peter Thrower. Daniel Cox there right in behind. Stanford in the end didn't lose too much time. Warwick, just having a look at the lap times last time out, a 108.2 from him, which is comparable, albeit just a smidge slower than Taipan on that last lap. It'll be interesting to see what Taipan can do now that he is at the head of this queue. So hasn't had the greatest run through the dogleg here. He's going to come under threat. Peter Thrower from behind here into turn 1 and 2. He's having to exit out of the corner.
Yep. If you want to make a move around this track, you're going to concentrate on your exits because there is a lot of straights here to maximise your sort of skill stream. So, yeah, concentrate on your exits as, again, Thrower mucks up the turn 2 exit there. So Taipan doing a really, really good job here of keeping it to P4.
Again, a little bit of a lock up there from Peter Thrower. Taipan, it looks like he's not as fast around the circuit, but he's just nice and smooth and clean here and doing all the things you need to do. Quite close to his personal best for the race at 8.1. Every lap I've seen him, he's only been in that low 8 range, so hasn't made too many mistakes so far. And doing a good job, but through that dog leg, looks like Peter Thrower has a significant advantage. He's just a bit quick, I'd say, in the middle sector though. If Peter Thrower can be close enough through the dog leg, he might be able to set up a move at that final corner.
Yeah, I think Pete can sort of tighten up with driving, make less mistakes.
Oh, Taipan is wide.
Taipan!
He did a good job to not go off the road, but the outside of his right side tyres would have been on the grass. He has to go defensive now. And he's going to hold on and Thrower. He's wide and on the grass, and there's contact between himself and Cox. And well, Cox getting the position in the end. So these guys now struggling here. They're on the final lap as we cut to the line Mitch, who we haven't seen too much of in this race, but he's done a magnificent job to claim his first win of the season. In his first start, mind you, and Hans Brunswick will come home P2 after...
I stopped seeing that car finish a race.
It's the best ever result for a Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport car.
Adelaide 2016.
Oh, that doesn't count. And,
That doesn't count, champ.
and Liccardo coming home in P3, so he'll be happy with a podium, and he's showing it by doing Doughy's Taipan. A great job to earn P4. And Daniel Cox as well, nice and consistent, and they were good on their tyres, and they were able to bring home the bacon in P4 and 5. Thrower will be ruining that mistake, but he's still been quite good tonight. He'll be hoping to just go a little bit better in race 2. Stancliffe will be ruining his mistakes. It seems, guys, that after the pit stop sequence that he seems to struggle, so perhaps he's gone for a start on the soft and then put hard tyres on maybe strategy. I can't really explain it, because after the pit stops he just seems to lose that edge that we don't normally see him have. Anyway, and then we got Steve Warwick there coming home in 8th. And Cracker in 9th, so nice effort from him. Lachlan Lock home in 10th place in the Penrite number 9 car. Tim Redmond eventually home in 11th, so he couldn't quite sneak back into the top 10. He's 2.5 seconds away after we believe he had to take a second pit stop there for tyres, I think. So disaster for him when he was comfortably out in front. He probably should have won this one and made it 3 from 3. And yeah, he'll be ruining that. He'll be hoping to pull off, has to be said, a Hans-like drive or a Lime Mitch-like drive here in the second race, but he's not too far away at least from his direct competitors. And then Mike Coulston home in 12th place, Cheese home in 13th, Mishra home in 14th place, Ben Pearson, battle-scarred Bruce Mobile Walkinshaw racing car, but it did better than a number of drivers out there, in fact including Mishra, who must have DNF'd there on the final lap, and he was the last runner, with NZ Snipes, Cecil, Burko, Brapp and Cecil. Justin Cecil, who couldn't start, but the rest of those guys all non-finishing in this one. So fellas, a hectic opening race from Oran Park.
Yeah, I think we didn't see as much as sort of. We saw a lot of mistake-induced sort of accidents, incidents. As I would have expected more sort of carnage in regards to hand-to-hand combat. But yeah, a lot of mistakes from a lot of drivers, and of course costing Tim Redmond a real good result there. Both on the track and maybe a bit of a strategy sort of mistakes in the pit stops.
Yeah, he was definitely a shoo-in for that race win. So yeah, just obviously those mistakes really cost him badly, and he's missed out on the top 10 reverse grid too, just by that one position. So he's going to have to start at midfield, which he hasn't started all night.
Yeah, so it seems throwing a pit stop in the mix for a number of these guys, because I think we saw that in one or two of the races at Albert Park as well, where drivers seemingly forget to change their tyres or something at the pit stops, and they come in a lap later. So, these guys not used to pit stops, as there weren't any last season in Super 2 unless you somehow damaged your car badly enough. And already it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works for a number of the drivers tonight, and Tim Redmond, who, with the pace we've seen, expect to be, winning that third race there. Also had a look there in the chat there on YouTube as well, and Matt Cecil saying that he had a puncture in that one. His tyre let go on the final corner, and that was part of the reason why he couldn't quite get up the hill. But as I said, he probably should have just tried to go a little bit parallel to the circuit. But yeah, bit of a disaster for him. And he feels he could have won the race. Of course, he was in that podium position. I believe he was ahead of Lion Mitch as well before the pit stop sequence. So it would have been an interesting one, and one that he'll definitely be ruining, guys.
Yeah, he was ahead, due to Lion Mitch's incident at the last corner. So yeah, unlucky for him having that tyre go where it did.
Yeah, if no offense to Matt, but he's done really well so far in this testing sort of sequence, and I feel like he's inconsistent in some series. Like I know in a series that Steve Burko likes to run, he does really well. Of course, I said in Super 2 he's doing really well, but then in some series he's he's had a bit of trouble in series like ASC and other series. So if he can be a bit more consistent, I think he can really challenge for maybe a real sort of title challenge in some series.
Yeah, and as we've said, I mean, the consistency is the key, and that's something that if you do lack, which, Matt, I think a lot of the time he's like Turmo in that he gets involved in, well, he doesn't get involved in, but he gets run into by, other drivers out there that, knock him off the road, which certainly doesn't help. But, you do have to get yourself out of that midfield pack at times, and maybe he needs to just improve the qualifying and race starts a bit better so he can sort of get out of the danger zone, which is, the mid-pack in these touring car series where, you do see, some, interesting driving from time to time. So he'll be hoping, going forward and into this season that he can put together some solid qualifying efforts and some solid race starts. And if you can do that in this series and then just keep it on the road and not make a mistake, you end up getting, the good results, as we saw from Taipan, who last season, he didn't set the world on fire. He was probably at the back end of the midfield, at least in the early part of the running. But as the season went on, he gradually got better, and certainly the start of this season, he's, been one of the standouts, at least, from last season to this. Obviously it's not round one, but looking like what will be a promising season for him with a big jump in performance. So he's, take a little bit of a page out of his book. Daniel Cox as well, he's another one that looks like he's found just a little bit of extra pace compared to last season as well, guys. With he was in that midfield range, but even though this season we've seen a bigger field and drivers going to drive the full season this time, he looks like one that strategy wise he might just have that little bit of advantage over those that may be a little bit faster.
I was impressed with him that last race, especially that second part of it where he was at the back of that Stancliffe thrower and Taipan battle where he was just staying at the back, being a little bit patient, waited for the other guys to make the mistake, and they didn't get to the top of that battle pack, but got just behind Taipan. So he's learning to be patient, and it's paying dividends for him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a key for a lot of these guys that may not have that brutal raw speed that the likes of Tim Redmond, the Stancliffs, and the Lime Mitches and even the Burkos, have, is that if you can just be solid, don't overcommit yourself and drive too hard. If you're smart about it, you can pick up good results each and every week. And I think we will see a number of the front runners at some stage in the season either make a mistake and end up in the fence, or they'll have races and rounds where they're going to muck up their pit stop strategy, as we saw just in that last race with Redmond. So there is going to be wins and podiums on offer for a lot of guys with good strategy and also mixing that with good consistency.
Yep, for sure. It's of course on this type of circuit, quite easy to make a mistake. So yeah, you're going to expect in most cases a bit of unpredictable results from certain drivers.
Yeah, and Mish was one of them, and he finished on the podium at Albert Park. And here at Oran Park, he's been absolutely nowhere so far. So, he'll be hoping his second race goes a little bit better, but he will be starting towards the back end of the field as we see Luke Rosella and Brendan Ross spam the in-game text chat with when and song. So hopefully Luke Rosella breaks out into a bit of song. You all know birds do love to chirp, so if you could just belt out some Wonderwall, that'd be great.
No thanks, Lewis. I'll pass on that request, mate.
Well, that's quite disappointing. So
Luckily for us, though, we can spam Gohans here, and we don't get banned in the chat.
yeah, so
The race. Yeah.
yes, so do remember, guys, that if you are following along and watching along either at the moment or you watch this later on and you are an AMSOZ or just anyone in particular that does watch it, if you are watching a motorsport stream, a live stream, go Hans. Just put that in the chat. Don't have to spam it as much as what we did on the race YouTube page when the Super Formula race from Autopolis was on last weekend, as we all found out the hard way. But certainly get behind the Hans Brunswick train and put that in the chat. And also don't forget hashtag Rhodium for all your Rhodium needs out there. And Mr. Rhodium, quite famous at this circuit. We did mention the Klaus Ludwig incident before the race one there as well.
Yes, I haven't heard from Klaus after that race. So, like you said, Lewis, hope he's back for a race here. I know he's quite keen on the racing, on the sim racing. I think he's in his 60s. Old Klaus.
Not even be older, but not bad for an old timer jumping in. I do believe it was the first time he's been on a sim as well, so he's jumped in.
Yeah, right.
Had a crack and he did a nice job driving the Sierra, which is an absolute dog, especially around a circuit with so many corners and no straights on it. So he did a really good job up until he got hashtag roadied there.
We should get old mate Klaus and his mate Chris Pither in a celebrity race for AMSOZ. They've made an appearance or two in the last couple of months, so it'd be nice to see them on track together.
It'd certainly be fantastic.
Not even in a martini livery as well. I think Klaus would actually like that. What do you reckon, Lewis?
I don't think he'd like that too much. Yeah, prefer some other brands, and Martini certainly isn't his favourite. But maybe they could both run in Coca-Cola cars and have a Coke with Chris.
Yeah, right.
But there's certainly been enough of these Martini liveries around that I personally wouldn't like to see it. Anyone with eyes that's done 5 minutes of sim racing, is sick of seeing them. Same with the old golf cars, they've been done to death. So please design something different, all you sim racing plebs out there. Just getting word we are going to advance in 20 seconds. Looks like the grid has been set, and those sirens in the background indicate that here we are. The final race of the evening is a bit late here, So you're gonna have to figure out if we start a little bit earlier or start to streamline the night somehow. But here we are,
Here we go.
and drivers now getting onto the grid for the start of a race number 2 from Oran Park.
Don't want me calling the grid, Lewis?
You can do it this time, and hopefully you do a little bit of a better job than what some drivers do at this circuit, getting out of the way of drivers on a heater.
Just waiting on the drivers to set off for the formation lap. Yeah. Time to take over. Here we go. So, lock on lock, the pole sitter for race number 2 here at Oran Park. He'll be joined by Cracker. Yeah, we're looking to have a cracker of a race tonight, from starting from P2. P3, Steve Warwick. He'll be joined on row 2 by Scott Stancliffe in the Red Bull 888 Race Engineering hold. Peter Thrower, P5. And then we have Daniel Cox in the Frosty Livery FPR Ford.
Pro drive.
Pro drive, sorry, yep. P7, we find Taipan alongside Dane Liccardo, the AAR development driver. P9, we find Arns Brunswick in the Lucas Dumbrell Municipal Pod. P10, Tim Redmond, who'll be looking to make a few positions off the start here. P11, we find Cheese in the Nissan. He'll be enjoying one side. In P12, by Mishra. P13, we will find Ben Pearson. P14, NZ Snipes in the Nissan. Matt Cecil, P15. P16, we find the Super 2 champion, Steve Verco in the Pro Drive Super 2 car. P17, Justin Cecil, and then rounding out the grid is Mike Coulston in the Kelly Racing Sengled Nissan Altima. That's the grid, folks.
That's about as high as that Sengled car's ever been. So
Yeah, right.
Rick Kelly certainly wasn't setting the wheels on fire the last few years of his career. So P18 might be last in this grid, but it's pretty high up for the old Kelly there. Well, Lock on Lock has missed his grid spot by half a car length. He's still over. My friend, these cars do have a handbrake. Please map the button. As looks like Coulston has formed up. Got a number of the guys going backwards and forwards there. Who is that? That's his Mishra. Still looking for his box. He's forward back. And here we are. Looks like we're about to get going. Cracker is creeping.
He's over.
And Cecil, there we go. He's too far forward. Cecil's got the penalty. Justin Cecil. And 3-4 wide there at the back there. There's Redmond trying to go around the outside. What are they doing? Are they all going to live? That's the question. Into turn 2 where it's deep. And I
don't believe it.
I don't believe it. I genuinely don't believe it. Turn 3 though. Cracker is in the lead. Stancliffe second. Lock third. And very, very wide is Peter Thrower. And Redmond, he's had a cracker of a start. And already up to P5.
But misses off.
Look at that, just a little bit later. Peter Thrower getting by Steve Warwick, who's been shuffled to the outside here, and he's going backwards in a hurry. He's trying to hold on around the outside of Taipan. He's off in the boot. He's doing some lawn mowing, and that's another spot. Maybe even another. As Mitchell tries to go around the outside, didn't give him too much room there. Looking forward from Mitchell, but all live to fight another day. Hot and heavy from the start, and somehow, guys, outside of Pearson's off, he's actually got to drive through as well, and Justin Cecil. It's been a remarkably clean start.
Yep, Cracker has got the early advantage here, but Scott Stancliffe, he'll be looking to get the move done on Cracker for P1 here.
Yeah, he can set his race up beautifully. If Stancliffe can just get by Cracker here, Lachlan Locke is holding up Daniel Cox. And Daniel Cox wants to get by because he's got Tim Redmond for company. Here we go, Cox up the inside here. He's a little bit deep, it's going to compromise everybody. Lachlan Locke's going to go for the switchback. He's going to have the inside as they go underneath the roof of the bridge. Cox trying to go around the outside. Redmond up the inside. Oh, he gives him a bit of a tip and shoulder. And, well, this is proper touring car stuff here. And Coxie now having a look again, back up the inside of Redmond, who has himself a bit cheeky there.
And trying to stick his nose in.
It's Brunswick and Locke up the inside there.
Licata wants a piece of the pie. He's just made a move
Oh,
on.
I've got a car around, I think.
Oh.
That's Mishra. He's gone at the final corner. Was there contact, or did he just flip that curve or just have a quick geese? Oh no, he went to the outside off camber. No, he did get rear-ended by poor old Snipes, who really had nowhere to go in that instance. That's Urko's up 4, Cecil's up 4, and that's Cracker. Slowly. What's happened to him here? No. Oh, he got caught up, almost rear-ended Pearson. And Pearson going very, very slowly there. But, just have a look at that again here. So Pearson,
yeah.
may have balked some people here, but Stancliffe now in the lead. Redmond's worked his way up to second. And Lachlan Locke holding on for dear life for third. Ricardo having a look at the dog leg. That's not a place where you pass, and Brunswick sort of
Check up.
had to check up and really had nowhere to go, and hip and shoulder wide there. He's not going to be too pleased with that, so we're right on board here.
So there'll be a few blocks
Yeah.
on the pit radio there, Lewis.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be many happy drivers with all that going about, that's for sure. And Brunswick just bringing it up there. Just had a good run through turn 2. Might try and set up a move here into turn 3 on Snipes. And he's forced to move now, and he's back up another spot. I think he'll want a little bit of revenge on Licata at the end. And Licata himself, he's still trying to get by Lachlan Locke as Redmond and Stancliffe drive off into the
Move in the
distance.
inside. Lachlan's going to hold it around the outside, but Nono's got the advantage coming into this corner.
Now, Locke's got to watch himself here because he might lose 2 spots. He's tried to hold on.
But the move done.
But Licata gets the job done. And if he can just concentrate for a lap or 2, he'll be clear of this angry battle. So we did say in the first race, it might be an idea for some of these guys, even Hans Brunswick, we did see battling a little bit early on that Juno has pace. His fastest lap for the race is 6.6 for Redmond. Might be an idea to pull into
Oh,
the
Stancliffe's lost it! He's on the grass! Oh! Massive check up!
And there's Mishra there as well that had a little bit of adventure. And Redmond now, he also got caught out, lost a little bit of time, but Redmond
Down
up
the
the inside.
move done.
And there we go.
P1 for Redmond. He's capitalised on Stancliffe. Another costly mistake.
Yeah, just too
We saw
wide.
a lot in race 1. And yeah, he's made a costly error.
Yeah, just too wide at turn 1. Outside tyres on the grass, and if you do that this track, you are toast. That said, he's still in a solid second place. If you can just put together a couple laps here, you know, he could give Redmond a run for his money. Licato's broken free of Locke here. And Locke's got Peter throw it for company. Brunswick has got by both Type Man and Cox here, and setting his sights on the second of the Red Bull Holt Racing Team cars. Locke hasn't had a great run out of the final corner here. May see Thrower have a look. No, he's going to back out of it. Hans, though, he had a look as well. The car in front checked up nice and early, so see a number of lock-ups there at turn 2. And it's Mishra awkwardly getting out of the way for all of them. And Thrower having to go defensive. And it's balking everyone, and it's bringing Daniel Cox back into play. Typeman's defensive in the background, so it's all happening behind Lachlan Locke here.
thrower piling on the pressure on locking the Penrod hold.
Oh, there's Noah a little bit wide there.
Yeah. Again, thrower. He just needs to tighten up the driving. If he can make no mistakes, he can easily get past.
Always wide again.
Lock here.
Lock's wide this time. Now it's all about the run for the dog lead. Whoever gets the best run here. Oh, that's probably a track cut, I'd say. For Peter Thrower, it's right behind Lock to the final corner. Hans looks like he's going to try and set up a decent run out of the final corner. In fact, they might go into the pits. No, Hans is looking for the slipstream. Lock going defensive. He's in the 109, so he's well off those guys in the front. Certainly slower than what Hans can manage. Thrower around the outside. He's on the grass. He's gone for sure. Does he hit the wall? He does. And, well, there may be...
impossible to get out sound track.
Yeah, he's going to be there for a while. And, oh, there's a car around. I think that's Mishra that's had a bit of a spin there. He's a lap down. But now it's Brunswick's turn to try and get past the roadblock. There's a little bit of contact.
Oh, he's nearly had off Lachlan Lock there.
Yeah, I think he's going to redress that. But Lachlan Lock is significantly slower than Hans Brunswick. And they've caught out Hans there into turn 5. So you can see it right here. Lock defending like crazy.
This is the halfway mark, so a tyre change is viable right now.
And the cog is up for Brunswick, so he's looking to pit. Redmond is coming in, so he's going to put some freshies on. Stankler's going on here, so he's looking for a better second half. Ricardo's going on. Out of the final corner they come, and a number of runners. Looks like the Bodlow car also jumping in hard very late. Well, that's going to be borderline there. And the old quiet man himself, Cecil's actually made up a bit of time going in the pits there, so he's done a nice job if he doesn't get pinged. But Brunswick, Cox and Cecil all in the pits. Steve Warwick also joining them in the pits. Now where will they end up when this sequence ends?
It's awkward here because Hans and Redmond's next to each other. Ooh. And they're alive.
Yeah, Cecil and Cox there right next to each other. And yeah, there's a little bit awkward there for Daniel Cox, and he had to awkwardly get out of the pits. Got Peter Thrower coming into the pit lane after his adventure off to the Blue Mountains. So he's coming in. Burko's a man, he hasn't done too much remarkable stuff in this race, but finds himself behind Taipan. Looks like he's coming in. Got yellows.
Cracker's off in the boonies.
Yeah, he's well off in the boonies. He's going to need to get a...
Near the lake.
Near the lake, yes.
Pitch a tent and get the Barbie ready. A fire ready. In the middle of nowhere out there. So Lachlan Lock in the pits, Taipan in the pits, Burko in the pits, Stancliffe in the pits, and he's had the double stack
for the red wall cars.
They didn't practice it, and that's disaster for Stancliffe. He's going to end up way down the field.
Oh my god!
And they were calling each other's pit stops in the first and second race, so they've made a blue there.
So Ricardo's gone on in the lead. Now who's gone by? Is that's Pearson that's gone by there, but absolute disaster. Redmond now coming across the line. Peter Thrower's got himself a penalty to boot, so it is an absolute calamity down there for Red Bull Holden Racing Team.
Well, Dave will not be pleased at all.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a few holes in the wall after this one. Hans Brunswick has ended up ahead of Lachlan Lock, and Lock in the pit stop sequence has lost a lot of time. He's behind, obviously, Stancliffe, but he's also behind Snipes, Brunswick, and Ricardo will probably jump in. Well, he was already ahead of him as well, but he'll be even further ahead now. So Ricardo in, and Redmond now coming up to the dog leg. His teammate, sounds like, yeah, his teammate is off doing some lawn mowing himself. So, the next big battle here, Coxie, followed by Snipes and Cecil. Separated by absolutely nothing at the moment. In their pit stop. Snipes a little bit wide there. In fact, Ricardo just exited the pits. He's lost a lot of time in the pit stops. He's lost a lot of time in the pit stops. We've got yellows out here in the first sector, so I'm just going to have a look here. So, oh, that's the Harvey Norman car that's gone around. That is Cheese, I believe.
Yep.
That's, yeah. What has happened there? Liccardo, he must have accidentally added too much fuel or something. Because he has lost a heap of time.
Justin Cecil is going backwards at the dogleg too.
So that's not ideal. And Cecil now all over the back. Car 23. So NZ Snipes has run wide again here. Just driving away. This is going to be a big battle for a podium, and Pearson coming on the track at the point. Looks like he's going to cut the track as Cecil also cuts the track with the dog leg. He's a little bit of a look there, playing it dangerous on the curve there. Bit of a slide at the exit of the final corner for Snipes, but it's another lap down. Redmond now comfortably in the lead at the moment, 10 seconds ahead of Brunswick. It's battle at the moment for P5. Cecil having a dip at the moment.
Somebody go.
Just 4 laps to go. We've got Stancliffe starting to come onto the back of this pack as well. It will be interesting to see though. With Liccardo coming in a couple of laps later than Brunswick, how that battle pans out in the final couple of laps of the race. Snipes though here in P5 doing a good job, although he's mucked up the dogleg a little bit. Lost a little bit of time. Cecil won a good run out of the final corner. It's very, very close. Not going to be close enough though for a move into turn 2, but he'll want to set a move up for turn 3 as Snipes is a 7-8, so first and best of the race for him. Brunswick 6-8 on that last lap, 2 tenths faster than our race leader, so he's travelling along quite nicely as well.
Dane Liccardo, P3, doing a pretty fine job. And he's got the time advantage over Hans, so he'll be pushing to try and cut down on that gap Hans has on him.
I think the next 2 laps for him, well, the next lap is going to be more. He's just got to stay with Hans here, because Hans on the second last lap and last lap, his tyres will probably be quite average. We've seen him sideways there, out of the left-hander. So if Dane plays it smart, he'll try and set up a move for lap 14 or 15 as we've got the yellows out in the final sector. So someone's off in the boot. He's
on the hill.
He's done what Cecil. He's ended up in the same spot that Cecil found himself in race 1. So he'll have to rejoin parallel to the circuit. If he doesn't, he'll just keep going up and down the hill. And
battle for P6.
Yeah, we just cut to it, and that's Cecil off the road there.
Yeah, he was trying to hang it around the outside Stancliffe there, and around that complex you just can't do that. You're going to run out of road and go on the grass.
Cecil locked a brake into turn 1, ran a little bit wide, so that's where that happened. Probably a little bit off-put by Stancliffe, who showed his nose. He'll be hoping that Stancliffe just stays behind Snipes here and he can work his way back as Snipes struggles through the flip-flop.
He is working the backside of that Snipes car, Stancliffe is. They were rubbing under the bridge and over the bridge.
And Yellow's still out here in the final section, and that's Pearson still off on the inside of the track. And Stancliffe having a look here, the Yellows are out, you can't pass. Well, looks like the Yellows have dissipated, but they're going to be side by side down the pit straight. Liccardo does a personal best, and here we go side by side into 1, and they live to fight another day. So good driving from the pair of them. Stancliffe a little bit wide through turn 2, but he holds on to P5 and P4. Hancock looks like he's struggled these last couple of laps here, and he's dropping away from Liccardo, and he's going to probably fall to the clutch to Stancliffe here, as Peter Throw has been disqualified.
F.
So what has happened here? Just cut in here. I reckon he's had a drive-through that he's not served. Yeah, he's got the drive-through icon next to his name. And Ben Pearson, he's got it going again. And he's driving back to the pits. Brunswick 107.1, Ricardo 107.1. So the matching lap times at the moment. So Hans has done Hans has done just enough at the moment to hold on to P2. They're 10 seconds behind our race leader Redmond, who would have had a clean sweep here, guys, if he hadn't have mucked up the pit stops in race 1.
Yeah, he could have got the quartet and yeah, show them all who's the one to look out for this championship. But yeah, he's done well to get 3 from 4 at least.
Still a couple corners to go though, so we won't say he's won it just yet.
I believe him.
You'd hate to lose it at the
Commentator's curse, mate.
You'd hate to lose it at the flip-flop and end up in the fence.
Mate, there is no roadie there. He has won this thing.
It is just one corner to go. Redmond, who has dominated tonight.
Great job.
And a step above, he's gone from Albert Park, which is one type of circuit, big, flowing GP circuit, to Oran Park, an absolute goat track, and dominated both. Brunswick will come home in P2, a great drive from him as well. Ricardo, another podium. Just remember though, go Hans, hashtag go Hans. And Coxey holds on to P4, Stancliffe home in P5, NZ Snipes in P6, followed by Cecil, who will be a little annoyed running a little bit wide there, and looks like he's going to chuck his car off in disgust. Burko home in P8, really quiet one there in race 2 there, so he might be a little bit disappointed with his pace here at Oran Park, guys. Lachlan Lock home in P9, he held a angry battle pack with some much faster drivers behind him early on there in this race, but couldn't quite hold on and lost out in the pit stop sequence, but still solid P9 for him. With Taipan home in P10, looks like he had a bit of dramas with the back end of that race, but he's certainly been one that's been quite solid early on and a big improver over last season. Warwick home in P11, followed by Mike Coulston in 12th place. Cracker home in 13th. He's got the handbrake on and ripping up those rear tyres. Obviously, they don't need them for a test day. Justin Cecil home in 14th, followed by Cheese in 15th. Both of those guys out of the race. Ben Pearson down 6 laps in a very damaged Boost Mobile Motorsport car. He pitched himself, he had a bit of a picnic down there at the inside of the final corner there for a lap or two, which explains why he's 6 laps down. But still a finisher, and Mishra non-finish as well. He had a good round at Albert Park, not so at Oran Park, and Peter Thrower, a bit of a disaster with that DQ there, which I'm guessing he got for either track cuts or left the pits a little bit, or entered the pits a little bit too quickly and then just didn't serve the penalty. But yeah, very, very interesting night of racing, and Tim Redmond, has to be said, going in probably $1.01 favourites for Adelaide next week.
Yep, I'll be turning on my value bets and my sports bets, bonus bets as well for Tim Redmond. But yeah, jokes aside, he's been absolutely amazing in this test round, and yeah, he's the absolute favourite, I think, for this season. You know, he might have practiced a little bit more than other drivers, but yeah, if you take that aside, yeah, he's had an absolute stellar test round.
He showed this pace at the back end of last season too, so he's not just fluking it by doing that little bit of extra practice, so he is the real deal for this season.
Yeah, so certainly going to be one to look out for. He was quick, as you say, at the back end of the season, but he didn't have that kind of advantage, so I think perhaps the added strategy of you know, pit stops and also driving on worn tyres, he just may have, you know, the complete package where last season we only saw, you know, little tyre wear, didn't have to worry about pit stops, and it was all about driving fast. So maybe that added element of, you know, the worn tyres as well as the pit stops, maybe he's just showing that he's at this stage a more complete driver than some guys who, you know, would think he's a little bit faster than.
pit stops do play a hand in smart drivers racing. So a lot of the time, smart drivers do well in pit stop races by setting up a pretty good strategy. So yeah, we'll be able to tell who's a pretty smart driver out there in the coming season.
You certainly will. Well, thanks for all those that have tuned in to the 2 different rounds tonight. We'll see how we go in a couple weeks' time for the second round where we do the back-to-back rounds. But for those that have watched, hope you've enjoyed tonight's broadcasts. Thanks for thanks to Luke Rosella and Brendan Ross jumping in and helping me in the commentary box this evening.
No worries.
No dramas.
And yeah, you will catch obviously this channel next week where round 1 of the Automobilistra Australia Super 2 Summer Series will get underway from Adelaide with just 2 races. So remember to spam Go Hans in the chat and hashtag Rhodium. Catch you then.
Go